This episode is brought to you by Peak Performers. What if the talent your team needs has been there all along, but you simply have not had a way to find it? Peak Performers helps organizations tap into a powerful and often overlooked talent pool. Professionals with disabilities. These are people who bring resilience, creativity, and strong problem-solving skills to their work, and who stay longer once hired. For more than 30 years, Peak has combined smart recruiting tools with genuine human connection to help organizations hire more inclusively and effectively. Learn how they can help you build stronger teams at peakperformers.org. Welcome to the Love in Action podcast. I'm your host, executive coach, speaker, and author, Marcel Schwantes. I believe that when we show up with our full humanity to work and lead from a place of love, joy, purpose, care, and inclusion, it's going to make a radical difference in your leadership, your business, and your bottom line. This is a show about actionable, practical love, the verb, as a leadership and business strategy. Let's get rolling. Hey gang, welcome back to the show. Today's conversation is one that I've been looking forward to for a long time. I say that because today's guests are true pioneers. I would even call them icons of this human-centered leadership and culture movement. You know, if you're a longtime listener, you know what I'm talking about, because that's how we talk about here. And by the way, they've both been here before. And I can honestly say this, having them back is a real honor, not just because of who they are, but because of what they stand for in the world of business and work. I know many of you are going to be thrilled when I mention their names. I'll be speaking in a few minutes with none other than Bob Chapman and Raj Sisodia. Bob was guest number 6 on the show way back. Raj was guest number 36. And I'm going to make sure to include both of those episodes in the show notes below if you want to check it out. Raj Sisodia is the co-founder of the conscious capitalism movement and one of the world's most respected thinkers on purpose-driven leadership and cultures anywhere. And together, they wrote a book that quietly changed the way a lot of leaders think about people and cultures and really how business is done. And that book is now a classic. Okay. And by the way, it should be in your bookshelf right now. And hopefully this conversation convinces you to go and get the book. Okay. I'm talking about Everybody Matters, the extraordinary power of caring for your people like family. There is the cover. And October of last year, 2025, marked something special. The 10th anniversary edition of Everybody Matters, with brand new chapters, new stories, and fresh insight into what they call truly human leadership. So in this new edition, Bob and Raj show what happens when leaders choose to lead like human beings. All kinds of good things happen. Morale rises, trust deepens, teams become more loyal and more innovative, companies grow, even in tough times, right? Without sacrificing their people. That's truly human leadership. And need these people-centric workplaces under caring leaders, people feel more purpose at work. And by the way, and we're going to unpack this a little bit, even their health, their relationships, and their sense of meaning in the world, their outlook in life actually improves in such environments. And that's why this book is still matters, I think even more so in the age of AI that we're in now, a decade later. All right, I'm done yakking away. Bob and Raj, I am truly grateful to have you back. Welcome to the Love in Action podcast.
It's good to have an opportunity to catch up and share our message again.
Yeah, so my understanding is that, and you can speak to this if you want, Everybody Matters has now sold over, I think at last count, 125,000 copies worldwide. It's been translated in 6 languages around the world. Did you see this coming?
Raj, I'll let you're a renowned author. Why don't you answer that question?
It's always hard to tell with books. You put a book out there, and some books catch on, and there's something in the zeitgeist and something in the message. It comes together. I know that this book certainly deserved to be known. And in Bob Chapman, we had a protagonist who's incredibly compelling, as well as somebody who has been tireless in his advocacy for these ideas, as well as I think he said he's given 300 speeches in the last few years on this subject. So a combination of those things, the time is right, the message is needed, the person delivering that message. I mean, I've done some of that too, but I think Bob's story is incredibly compelling and inspiring.
Yeah, yeah.
Not only does Bob get moved to tears when he speaks, half his audience get moved to tears, and I think when you touch people's hearts, that's when transformation happens. So it's really been a gratifying experience for me to be on the ride with Bob as this book has made its way into the world.
Yeah, I would say to you in hindsight, we had no idea. We just felt compelled to share this message we've been blessed with. And I feel that with the blessing of Raj as my co-author, who can beautifully articulate the journey we've been on, it far exceeded our wildest expectation because there's a hunger for caring in the world. And this book addresses caring.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Bob, let's take a memory or let's go down memory lane here. Okay. Because we're talking about a 10-year span between the first book and this edition. So walk us back. What was the original idea of the book? Maybe the why behind it back in 2015?
Well, kind of the back bar. I met a publisher Penguin named Adrian Zachhammer, and he heard our story and he said, "Bob, you're going to write a book." And I said, there's no way I'm going to write a book. I'm an accountant. He said, "You're going to write a book." And it's just completely outside my spectrum of possibilities. And then a gentleman that knows Raj, Srikumar Rao, visited our operations, and he sat across my desk and he said, "Bob, I've interviewed hundreds, if not thousands, of CEOs, and I have never seen anything like this. You have to share it with the world." So that, and the idea then Raj came up with was, it's kind of the journey from management to leadership, which is the first third, kind of technically called the hero's journey. Okay. And then the second 2/3 of the book was, how do you do it? If you come to this point, how do you do it? So, again, the gift of Raj in expressing the journey we've been on has been overwhelmingly, and this is a universal issue. This is not an American issue. This is a global issue that this book addresses. We just simply don't know how to care for each other.
Hang tight, folks. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor. I want to take a moment to tell you about Peak Performers. They are a nonprofit staffing agency that helps organizations discover what they call talent without limits. Peak specializes in connecting employers with professionals with disabilities, an incredible source of untapped talent that many hiring systems miss. What stands out about this group and why employers love working with them is that they often bring exceptional resilience and a natural ability to solve problems. They also tend to stay longer, which means greater retention and more stability for teams. For more than 30 years, Peak has used a blend of smart recruiting tools and genuine human connection to help organizations hire in a more equitable and effective way. If you want a hiring approach that brings out the very best in people and strengthens your organization, visit peakperformers.org. Wow. Yeah, so you've now had 10 years of global exposure, hundreds or thousands of reactions to the book, maybe some good, maybe some bad. I would assume you've probably even learned more lessons since and continue to evolve in your understanding of, Bob, in your case, Barry-Wehmiller, like truly human leadership. Okay, a lot has happened in 10 years. So what would you both say is the goal, maybe the hope that you have now for this new edition? I'll start with Raj.
Well, the book, as I said, was very timely when it came out, but I think it's even more urgently needed today. We're living at a time, I think, of considerable suffering, a lot of division, a lot of disconnect. a lot of people using each other in many ways in business and not caring about the impact on people's well-being. We've been through a tremendous, hopefully once in a lifetime trauma of the global pandemic. So these ideas get stress tested in those environments to see, does it really count when the chips are down? We really show up with that caring approach, etc. So there's a lot of ways in which that message needed to be refreshed, updated. We've got the advent of AI now, of course. We've got other currents that are going on in geopolitics, etc. So we needed to reinforce and extend the message, expand the message as well. What have we learned in these 10 years? Where before that, it was really an internal journey for the most part for Barry-Wehmiller to refine and practice these things. In the last 10 years, it has also been an external journey to bring these ideas to the world. And through a consulting operation, Chapman and Company, bringing them to a variety of other industries and companies and showing that this can work. This works everywhere in every industry. And we've got many examples now of how that works. As I said, we stress tested it in the pandemic, and you can see again how caring shows up as an even more important thing in times of turmoil. And of course, now extending this into education. That's one of the big initiatives that Barry-Wehmiller has supported, which is bringing it not only into business school education, where I've been a business professor for 41 years now. I know that we're not teaching this stuff still, even now. We need to bring that in there, and also we need to bring it into earlier, education in high schools, for example, as well. So there's a lot of ways in which the work has extended into the world, and now we've learned some new lessons.
Yeah, and I think, well, again, with the beyond our imagination success of the book, and also remember, Harvard told us that our case study on, which parallels the book, is we've reached like 300,000 students in 200 universities around the world. It's one of their better selling cases. The hunger in the world for caring is the foundation. And you can't, and what we've learned, Marcel, you can't ask people to care for others. You have to teach them the human skills of caring. You can't ask people to speak German or French or Chinese. You have to teach them how. Caring is a skill that is teachable, and we've learned that. And again, the major theme of the revised edition of the book is the way we lead impacts the way people live. I was never taught in my education that the way I'd run Barry-Wehmiller would affect the way people would go home and treat their spouse and their kids. But 95% of the feedback we get, 95% around the world, it's not an American issue, in every part of this country, is how it affects their marriage and their relationship with their children, okay? I just thought the exchange was, I'll pay you a fair salary for your skills that I need. You'll give me the skills, and it was an economic relationship we had with our team members. And this is a human relationship. I think a key thing is Washington University organizational development professors interviewed me for an hour and a half. And they said at the end of the hour and a half, you never talked about your product once. And I said, I've been talking about our product for the last hour and a half. It's our people. It's amazing.
Yeah, so let me track with that a little bit, because I alluded to this in my introduction, right? How the idea of caring environments actually affect people's personal lives. But expand on that a little bit more, either one of you. I mean, we're talking about people's health and marriages and their well-being. I mean, connect the dots here. How does that happen?
Well, a simple statement, and I'll let Raj, is that we learned that the person you report to at work is more important to your health than your family doctor. Okay? So here we have this industrial society created by the wisdom of the Industrial Revolution, created tremendous economic wealth. But we have the highest level of depression, anxiety, and suicide we've ever had.
Yeah.
Okay? And so the issue we really have is that we don't know how to care for each other. Okay? So, and again, until we learn to care, we can't be leaders. Because I was taught to use people to achieve results. It was an economic relationship. And truly human leadership is people are our purpose. Okay. I'm not going to go to my grave proud of the machinery we built. I'm going to go to my grave proud of the people who built that machinery. And that is the healing power of this message. Our people are our purpose. Okay. And that's what startles people.
Yeah.
And I think as Bob says, Marcel, the way we lead impacts the way people live. And this has shown up in all of the feedback from all the different courses, etc., that are taught at Barry-Wehmiller University on leadership and listening and so forth. That predominantly the feedback is that this is changing my relationship with my spouse, my children, the way I live. Of course, it's impacting me at work, but that's almost secondary. So we recognize that those emotions that you feel at work, which typically tend to be negative, right? You're burned out, you're stressed out, you feel disrespected, disconnected. You can't help but carry those home with you. And that affects how you can be in your life. And so, there are many, many examples, anecdotal ones as well, of people saying, "Oh, I have a better relationship with my wife now. She actually talks to me because, now I'm a different person when I go home, and I listen to her, and I'm kind, and so forth." So I think those are some of we might call them side effects, but really they're the more important effects.
Yeah.
This is really elevating people's well-being and happiness in their lives, and that's ultimately what matters most. And a happy person, who's fulfilled and has joy and meaning in their life, they're obviously going to be a great leader at work as well.
Yeah, I think I remember my second revelation was at a church when I realized that while the rector of our church gave a great sermon for an hour, that we had people for 40 hours a week. And I said that day, business could be the most powerful force for good in the world if we simply knew how to care for the people we had the privilege of leading, sending them home each night, knowing that who they are and what they do matters, so that they could, that they feel valued and look forward. And again, the number one source of happiness in the world is a good job doing meaningful work with people you enjoy.
Yeah. Well, this is interesting, Raj. This one's for you because, you're an educator, you're a university professor. The three of us already agree that we need to teach future leaders to care, right? I think that when you look at the world's biggest business and leadership challenges, we can fix all that if we introduce human skills, I think, early on. Not just in business schools. We're talking like, introduce that early on, maybe from middle school on up, right? But I don't get the sense that it's still a priority in education. So speak to that. I mean, here we are, it's 2026. Have things changed in education? Are these principles being taught?
I would say very little has changed in business schools, which is really my experience. There are some elective courses now that are available in many schools, but they are electives. And the people who take them are already so inclined, right? They already have that in them that they want to go further. But the core curriculum, the required courses, are still all about the prose of a business, not the poetry of business. They're all about the head, not the heart.
Yeah.
And business education, I think, is severely lacking. I look back I had 6 years of business education, 2 years MBA and a 4-year PhD. And in all that time, it was all about the head and the wallet. It's all the numbers, the theories, the frameworks, and then everything goes to the bottom line. You're taught that on day one, right? And what I realized in retrospect is that it completely bypassed the human in between, the head and the wallet, your heart, your spirit, your soul, even. I was never inspired a single day in my business education, and I was not emotionally moved. I never had this, oh my God, business can be beautiful, business can be noble, business can be heroic. I never got that. It was all about business can be, can make a lot of money, basically. So I think that element still remains largely true. In business schools, it's all about the bottom line for the company and the bottom line for you as a student. How can you get the maximum salary, go into consulting, investment banking, whatever it is? But we are not connecting to the human at all. And I have the experience now when I teach in a different way, and I teach conscious leadership and conscious business, of literally having MBA students crying in my class. Okay. Because they're so moved. I taught a case on a Dutch bank named Triodos. The tagline is conscious money in action, and this bank has such a pure sense of purpose and strong values that they live by. And these students who had worked in banking in their professional career, they were just in tears. They said, we didn't know banking could be so beautiful. And I said, every business can be beautiful when you do it with these kinds of values. So I think we're missing a lot in business schools. We're part of an effort with Bob as well to try to change that. But I would say it is still in the early stages. And we still have the dominant, most business schools are dominated by the finance faculty. And that whole shareholder value perspective remains kind of the core operating system of business education. And so I would say, we're quite far from having that flip.
Yeah. And Bob, I know for a fact that that's the shareholder model, profit model is where you used to reside early on in your career. So you had to make the shift yourself.
Well, yeah, I thought that was our job, was to make profit and to use people to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I was, again, as I said earlier, I was never taught to care for the people. And again, Raj mentioned the MBA students get emotional. We teach our human skills all over the world at BW University because you can't ask people to care, you have to teach them, and we teach them. People around the world, grown men and women, come to tears taking these classes because they realize they've hurt the very people they love the most because they didn't know how to care for them. Okay, so there's no question we've been blessed with a vision of the way the world was meant to be, where people genuinely care for each other. Okay, and our goal is, a gentleman named Bill Urey of Harvard, world peace negotiator, came in and visited our company. Again, given all the issues going on in the world right now politically, he said, Bob, I spent 2 days talking to your people and I saw the answer to world peace. I said, Bill, how did you see the answer to world peace in these manufacturing operations of ours you visited? And he said, I saw a place where people genuinely care for each other. And I heard a lot about your listening class. And I now realize, just think of the world we're in right now. He said, I now realize I've been going to global peace talks for 30 years. I now realize that's exactly what they are. The global peace talks. We simply don't know how to listen. And how do we work together? How do we care for each other if we don't know how to listen?
Yeah. I want to transition a little bit to conscious capitalism. Raj, so you're known for the two leadership classics, all-time classics in my book, right? Firms of Endearment and Conscious Capitalism, which I understand you're working on a new version of it. Is that right?
That's right, yeah.
Okay. So how has being exposed to Everybody Matters and the truly human leadership model, and really, you've been exposed to the Barry-Wehmiller story now for 10 or more years. So how has that impacted your own view and understanding of conscious capitalism? And the second part of that question, how did the two worldviews kind of align and merge?
Yeah, so when I first became aware of Bob and Barry-Wehmiller, initially I thought it's another good example of a conscious business. But then when I went and visited and understood more, I realized that it extended our thinking, it deepened our understanding on at least two of the pillars, on purpose and on leadership. So on purpose, we had kind of the default understanding that purpose is about what you're doing for your customers. Right? You have a purpose out in the world, which is somehow going to impact your industry and then the customers that you serve. But what I realized after visiting Barry-Wehmiller, where they say very clearly that our purpose is our people, that we measure success by the way we touch the lives of people, that our business, all the industrial machinery and so forth that we make is important and it makes a positive impact on the world. But that's not what gets us excited about our work. That's the economic engine for us to really fulfill our purpose, which is to elevate human lives through business, through the work, the experience that they have. So what I realize is that purpose is a deeper concept, that you must have a people-centered purpose, and you can also have a product-centered purpose. It's like an airplane with two engines. Ideally, you want both. Right? You want something that really is compelling for your customers, but importantly, It begins at home. So you have to make sure that there are companies that have a noble purpose for their customers, but they're terrible places to work and people are burning out and treated without respect or dignity. So the well-being of people is paramount, and that has to come first. And if you had to choose one of those two engines, I think you have to choose the people engine, because an airplane can fly on just one engine. Ideally, you want both. But if you had to pick one, I think the people one matters, because those are the people, the employees are the ones who are impacted the most by how you operate. Customers can always go somewhere else. Employees, it's harder. So that was one. The purpose can be deeper, and you think about it in a more humanistic way. The second one was on leadership. So I thought of conscious leadership as ensuring that we have a great experience for people at work, where they have a sense of meaning and purpose, empowerment, all the rest of it. But it was really confined to what happens during working hours. And then when I came to Barry-Wehmiller, I said leadership is the stewardship of the lives entrusted to us, right? And the way we lead impacts the way people live. That leadership goes beyond the walls of the business and the hours in which we operate, that it really impacts people's whole lives. And in that sense, has a multi-generational impact on their families. It's going to impact their marriage and their children and their children's children perhaps as well. And so that is a much deeper and more sacred view of what leadership is and the impact that we have. And so it really deepens that tremendously. So I would say that on those two dimensions, I've really learned a lot. And then, of course, culture and stakeholders as well. It's, there are things we can learn from Barry-Wehmiller, but I would say on purpose and leadership is where it really stood out for me.
Wow. Yeah. Just the fact that you said that it has a multi-generational impact speaks volumes to me. Bob, I want, we throw the words truly human leadership kind of loosely, and you're known for that. That's sort of the things that are taught inside the Barry-Wehmiller, et cetera. But for those of us that are just hearing it for the first time, in your own words, I mean, what does that mean? Truly human leadership.
We originally called it people-centered leadership. Leadership focused on the people we had the privilege of leading. Simon Sinek came along, as Raj did, saw the impact of this, and he's got anthropology background. He said, this is truly human leadership. This is the way we are called to treat people, okay, with respect and dignity, and send them home each night knowing that who they are and what they do matters. And, I want to piggyback off what Raj said a little bit. I don't want anybody in your audience to think it's just about being nice to people, okay? Any more than parenting is just being nice, okay? It's much, much more than that. It's very important that you have a business model that is robust. So when you invite people into your organization, they feel that they have a future with you. They can buy a house, decide to raise a family, decide to educate their kids. So one of the foundation of caring is to make sure we have a business model where the people we invite into our company feel safe, and it makes a dramatic impact on people. We have record numbers of layoffs right now. How would it feel for somebody to walk up to you and say, you know what? Unfortunately, we need to cut some costs, and you're one of the people we're going to let go. But it's really human destructive, okay? And so my main focus of caring is to make sure we have a business model where people feel they have a grounded sense of hope for the future. That is critical, and that's conscious businesses, to be a conscious business, to understand all the lives we touch in our business.
Yeah. All right, let's put the focus back on this new edition of the book. Either one of you, do you have any examples or case studies how this new version of Everybody Matters has maybe helped redefine success in a company somewhere? Any good examples of that?
I think people ask me all the time, are other people approaching this? And I get text, emails from people all over the world talking about the impact that is made on their company.
Yeah.
Okay. And awakening them to the true purpose of leadership, the true purpose of leadership. So I would say to you, we get a flow of positive feedback. Never has anybody, Harvard, McKinsey, anybody debated the merits. It's just so far from what we teach and what we live to where we should be. And again, we have a society, unfortunately, that success is defined as money, power, and position. And it doesn't matter how you get it. As long as you get it, you could write checks to charity and everybody will say you're a wonderful person. Okay. My statement to CEOs in this world, the greatest act of charity is not the checks you write. It's how you treat the people you have the privilege of healing. And so, again, remember, a statistic that has been amplified is 88% of all people in this country feel they work for an organization that does not care about them. 88% of all people. Why would you want your kids to get a job when there's 88% chance they're not going to be treated with respect and dignity? Okay. So it's broken, but so overwhelmingly driven by economics that it drowns out the lack of humanity, the lack of dignity. The economic numbers overwhelm. So again, we're trying to prove that you can create economic and human value in harmony. And actually they spiral and they feed each other, because when people feel cared for, they will share gifts that they didn't even know they had. And they'll work hard for their brothers and sisters in the organization to make sure they have a future. So again, we've been doing this for 20 years. This is not an experiment. This is not an academic theory. We are simply sharing what we're actually doing from India to China to Serbia to Germany to France to all parts of America. 12,000 team members around the world. It is a universal truth that people simply want to know they matter. And it's powerful. And again, the importance of it, but we spent a year writing the additional 5 chapters to capture the power of this message that the world needs to hear. The way we lead impacts the way people live. That it's that powerful, and because that never would have occurred to me that the way I'd run Barry-Wehmiller would affect your personal health.
A lot of companies that Chapman and Company has worked with, from Meyer, the big retailer in the Midwest, American Airlines, the San Francisco 49ers, many other companies as well. And then others, Bob, I'm trying to remember the gentleman who spoke at the book party that we had, who's the local business person.
Steve Gunn.
So he came and visited and got inspired, and then he's implemented the whole playbook, and his business has just taken off dramatically. So that's just one example. But I think the other side of this is that Barry-Wehmiller is now up to about 150 adoptions, as they call them, right? Not acquisitions, but adoptions. Because adoption is like adopting a child. You don't, at some point when things get tough, you don't say, okay, 40% of you have to go, right? Adopting is for life. And that's the case. They have never sold a single company or let go of a single business. And so the proof of this is really internal as much as it is external, because every year they're acquiring 8-10 more companies and putting in this mindset and this philosophy and this culture of caring. And it is working in every instance internally. I don't know of any other company that has had this many adoptions or acquisitions and really made the culture cohesive and seen the impact on those businesses from before and after.
I think a really short story, because stories are powerful. We're acquiring a division of Dannon Yogurt in France, in Paris, and make machinery for the yogurt cups. And my board was very concerned with the political environment in France in terms of government, involvement in business and workers' council. Not many people had much good experience, but I felt it was a great opportunity for us, and I felt good, and they supported me. I flew over there to meet with the workers' council. This is 8 men and women in their 50s and 60s who represented all the team members. And I sat down and said, because they have to approve the deal. So we had a tentative deal with Dannon, but they had to approve it. And I sat down and talked to them about what we believed in the future. And they said, Mr. Chapman, we are going to approve you acquiring our business. I was very touched. Ugly American coming over to France, and they wanted us. And Dannon was a wonderful company, but they wanted us to acquire the company. And then a gentleman named Felipe says something to me I will never forget. He said, Mr. Chapman, could I say something? I said, sure. He said, Mr. Chapman, we've been waiting for you for 32 years. And they began crying. Because the government can't protect your soul. It might protect your benefits. It might protect your retirement, et cetera. But it can't protect your soul. And what they saw in France, when we brought Truly Human Initiative to France, was an organization that cared about them, and it was moving to these people well into their careers because they'd never experienced it. So that was profound to me.
Mm-hmm. This is for either one of you. I feel like there is still this false criteria that we don't quite understand yet what it takes to lead at the top, and so we reward the wrong behaviors, which then leads to all kinds of things. Narcissism rises to the top, and hubris is present everywhere. People have personal agendas and they're pulling against each other, and that doesn't lend to a truly human workplace, right?
Yeah.
And so how do we break this or disrupt this system that is rewarding the wrong people up the chains with these skills that are no longer sustainable?
Well, the easy answer is, I was dealing with a gentleman who ran a major international company, and he heard me speak. And he came up to me and said, Bob, I thought my job was to build a market leader in our industry in the world, and I did that. But it never occurred to me until I heard you speak. This was at a church in Dallas. He said, it never occurred to me to care for the 100,000 people that worked in our organization. You have given me a whole new purpose, okay? And so I put these pieces together from all the feedback from all my talks. And I say, why do we need to fix adults? Why is there a need for us to teach people to care? Because our education system teaches us academic skills so we can get a good job and make money, and in theory, we'll be happy. And we have, again, the most prosperous economy in our history, and we have the highest level of depression, anxiety, and suicide we've ever had. Why? Because we don't know how to care for each other. We are taught to use and reward. You talked about how often have you seen somebody promoted because they genuinely care for the people they have the privilege of leading? Okay, they achieved results. Any way you do it, because that's what the market wants, results. Okay, so it starts with education. And the beauty is we have a number of universities around the country that we're working with to transform and create tomorrow's leaders who have the skills and courage to care. So we start populating the world with people with these skills.
I would add to that, Marcel, as well. I think what you're identifying is a very, very crucial and important question. Who gets to be a leader in our system? What are the qualities that get you into leadership? And as Bob said, most companies, it has only been purely about your track record, as in your numbers, how you achieved results at every stage. And that's important, but how did you achieve those results? And what was the impact, the long-term impact on the organization as well as on the people? And there's a lot of very startling research on this. If you look at the incidence of psychopaths in different professions. Okay, now psychopaths are people who have no empathy for others. They're incapable of feeling others. They only think about themselves, and they're willing to do whatever it takes to climb over. High security prisons have about 20% of those people are psychopaths, as you might expect. But the profession which has the highest percentage of psychopaths overall is CEOs.
Oh, man.
Okay. And the C-suite in general, there's a much higher percentage than the overall population might be 1%. But in some business environments, it can be as high as 20% as well. And by the way, number 2 is surgeons for some reason. We have a system that has selectively identified and then trained and developed people to be single-minded in pursuit of one thing, right, without regard to the human cost. And therefore, so for example, Southwest Airlines, they look for 3 things. They look for somebody with a servant's heart, with a fun-loving attitude, and with a warrior spirit. That's their culture, and that has to be manifested in every leader, even more so, right? In conscious capitalism, we use the acronym selfless, that conscious leaders have to be selfless in the sense that they're not in it just for their own ego and power and money. They're in it as a vehicle of service. And selfless stands for you have to be strong. You have to have moral courage and personal power, not just positional power. lots of energy and enthusiasm. By the way, Bob checks the box on all of these. You have to be rooted in love. Strength and love must go together. Strength without love is tyranny. Love without strength is ineffective. You have to be flexible to show up with the right approach. You have to take a long-term orientation beyond your tenure as a leader. What's going to be the long-term impact of what your decisions? And then you have to have emotional intelligence, understanding yourself and others, spiritual intelligence, understanding the role of meaning and purpose in your life and the lives of the people you lead, and systems intelligence, understanding how the whole thing works together, right? So when we apply these criteria, then we make sure that the people who are elevated into positions of leadership are in fact going to deepen that culture of caring. And ultimately that will also result in superior performance.
Guys, as we wind down here, it's been such a rich conversation. There may be questions I did not ask that I should have asked. So here's a chance for you to kind of weigh in. Is there anything that that I should have zeroed in on that I missed?
Well, I would say to you, this is, the combination of Raj's perspective from his educational background, and teaching, and my kind of practical experience of doing it. I think the way Raj and I have been able to blend our experiences, his conscious capitalism, his teaching, my running a business. We have been blessed with this message. There's no way me, an accountant from North St. Louis with, from undergraduate in accounting and MBA and went into public accounting. There's no way I studied psychology or anything. This is a message that could heal the world. Okay. And it's not just business. I want to emphasize every part of society I speak in is just as broken. Healthcare, nonprofits, military, government. We don't have leaders, not bad people, but we have a system that doesn't have leaders who have the ability and to care for the people they have the privilege of leading. And again, I'll repeat it. You cannot ask your people to care. You have to teach them how to care, which is what we do through the university. So there's no question in this journey of 20 some years that we have been blessed with the most powerful healing message in the world. And the opportunity to interact with Raj and you on this is very meaningful to me.
Likewise. What about you, Raj?
Well, I would add one thing to what I answered earlier about how this extends conscious capitalism. There was a belief among some people that conscious capitalism is kind of a luxury good, that it really applies to the Patagonias and the Whole Foods, that those kinds of premium brands, right? That it's not really something that you can practice if you're operating in a different way or different part of the economy. Barry-Wehmiller shows us that this works anywhere and everywhere in every industry and every size of operation. And I think that's important because what's common to every business is people. People are at the core of it. People are at the heart of it. Everything that we do, we must put people and the well-being of people and life in general at the core and the center of everything that we do. And everything, our profit and our business model and everything should revolve around the well-being of people. Ultimately, that's why we're here. We're here to take care of each other and to evolve ourselves. And so Barry-Wehmiller shows that in a beautiful way. As Bob said, they operate in probably 15, 20 countries and now in multiple industries as well. And so it does work in every kind of environment. It's a universal message that is very, very needed in the world right now. We're, I think, living at a time, it feels like a bit of a moral recession to me, where we've sort of lost sight of the human side of things and we're not operating with love. We're operating with a lot of harshness and brutality even in the world. We need to find ourselves of our humanity, and I think that's what this message is about.
Well said, well said. And speaking of love, we bring it home with two questions as we do with every guest. And the first one is the love question, right? I don't think that you can be a leader or call yourself a leader without the love or the care piece in place. So let's get practical. How do I lead my team if I'm in the trenches? Or even as a CEO who is trying to embody the principles down to lower ranks. I mean, how do I lead with more practical, actionable love and care every day?
Well, that's exactly what we do. I mean, first of all, the message that we've just shared with you for the last hour is out in the public domain, TED Talks and all kinds of articles. So it's in the public domain what we're talking about. Okay. And so sit down with your leadership team and say, we've all we've all seen the video, we've read the articles. How do we feel about this, in terms of our organization? And then how do we do it? Because that's why we created the Leadership Institute, Barry-Wehmiller Leadership Institute. As Simon Sinek's advice in the early days is, look for the people who believe what you believe and want to join you, and focus on them, and others will follow. So the good news is we're an open book. We have an organization that helps companies go on the journey if they elect to do so. But we focus on the people who believe what we believe, to show it is possible in every part of the world, in every industry, to care for the people you have the privilege of leading, and sending them home each night knowing that who they are and what they do matters, and we could heal this poverty of dignity we have in the world.
Yeah. What about you, Raj?
Well, my favorite wisdom on love and leadership comes from Senator Raphael Warnock from Georgia, who also is the pastor at the Ebenezer Baptist Church, where Martin Luther King used to be the pastor. And he says, you cannot lead the people unless you love the people. And you cannot love the people unless you know the people. And you cannot know the people unless you walk among the people. And I see this at Barry-Wehmiller and in Bob. Clearly cares about the people, and he spends a lot of time getting to know them, having these town hall meetings with people at every level, listening constantly, and understanding what their life is like and where are the gaps between what we say and what their lived reality is. So I think that's a very important message for every leader. You can order people to do things, but you don't really lead them if you don't love them. If you don't care about them, then you're just giving orders. And people will do a certain amount when they are ordered to do things, but the real gifts of what they are capable of only come when they feel cared for, and when they feel respected, and when the leader is manifesting that in every way. And so I think leaders have to be the walking embodiments of these ideas that we're talking about. They have to be number one example in the company, and then it trickles down. What happens in corporate cultures typically is imitative. Right? If the leader is somebody who yells and screams at people, like Bill Gates was famous for doing that, right? He would say, that's the stupidest thing I ever heard. Don't ever come to me. Everybody becomes a little Bill Gates in the organization. They start screaming at the people below them. But by the same token, a company like Barry-Wehmiller, there are many Bob Chapmans, in the company as well, because people want to emulate, how a leader is, and they're inspired by that. So I think that is to me a very important way to connect love and leadership.
Yeah, I want to add just one tiny point. People ask me, how do you justify the cost of these initiatives to teach people these human skills of caring? I said, did you just ask me how I justify teaching people to care? I said, how do you justify not caring? I don't need to justify any more than I should justify safety, okay? Caring goes to the soul. So we do this because this is the right thing to do. We don't do it to improve productivity or engagement or customer experience. We do it because it is the right way to lead. And every day we want to continue to live this and share it.
Yeah. Well stated. Folks, go and pick up the copy of Everybody Matters, the expanded 10th anniversary edition. I'll make sure the link to the book is in my show notes right below. Bob and Raj, you overexceeded my expectations. I knew it was going to be a great conversation. So I want to thank you for continuing to really challenge the way that leadership is done. I still feel like this is mission for all of us, and then just reminding the world at large that listens and reads that for us to be really successful, everybody has to matter. And so I want to thank you both for being the pioneers leading the way in that sense.
We feel blessed to have a message that could heal the world, and our goal is to share it every day with people like you who can take it to your audience. So thank you.
Appreciate that. Folks, it's a wrap. So for Bob Chapman and Raj Sisodia and yours truly, remember, in the end, when this whole thing is all over, love and care always wins. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Love in Action podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it, subscribe, and leave us a review. Until next time, don't forget, the future of leadership is love in action. Believe it, practice it, and watch your leadership and business flourish.